Oh no, I don't want to feel old, dude. I just had to break into my own apartment with a plastic bottle and a scissor. It worked. Forgot my keys. It's all about the right plastic. Ah, I'm not done. Okay. I think we're looting.
I can't do this just yet.
Okay. We're starting at 3 o'clock.
Don't step on the cracks.
At 3 o'clock as in I look at the map and I will remember where I started looting because yeah, the direction is 3 o'clock, or we can call it east, I guess. But now I know where I started looting. So I do one full round. And don't do shit twice. And yeah, I forgot my apartment keys. Yeah, Atoll is amazing. And yeah, forgot my apartment keys and had to break into my apartment with a plastic bottle and a scissor from my car first aid set. But it worked. As you can see, I'm in now. Hey, Freddy. Yeah, it's not too hard, honestly. There's a YouTube video you can watch, and then you know it within 2 minutes yourself too. Okay. Pick up loot here. Do this. Freddy, was möchtest du? Hm? Let's follow Freddy and see where she leads us. One day I'm able to afford this. Freddy. Freddy. Ooh. Dude. Yo, what? Holy shit. Hey, Pain. Yo, we found a jewel. Hahaha. You're a funny person. Lemao. Okay, so bro, check out this fucking jewel. Tier 1 lightning. Okay, this. Tier 1 crit multi. And added fire. I'd say this is at least 2 div, bro. I dropped like 3 divs today. Oh yeah. Crazy jewel. Was it 10 div? I think so. It was insane. Dude, I don't know what the fuck they did to Abyss Jewels, or maybe it's something on my tree? But they're fucking insane! The jewels I'm dropping are fucking insane! I use it for XP, the thing. Like, what the fuck is... Okay. Abyss. No? Okay, that's not what I mean, though. Ah, this is trash, dude. Vendor. PC. This is fucking crazy. Should I put the... What do you want? I think... All good. The tree's kinda... Don't have... I could... It's only 4 points. Okay, we're doing it. The fucking Abyss Jewels. Crazy. Crazy. I don't know what's happening, but they're dropping very, very well rolled. Here. Tier 1, this again. Tier 2, this. This for 10C. Tier 1, attack speed. Tier 1, this. What the fuck is happening? Tier 1 armor. Huh? Nani? Doesn't even exist. What is happening? Tier 1, ES. Tier 1, attack damage. Huh? Huh? Why? Tier 1. Dude! That's all I'm dropping. All day. Like, since I have Abyss, this is all I'm dropping. They're all like that. Crazy. What the fuck is happening? Anyways, we're rich. Burning ground. Yeah. XP want. Oh wait, 600%. Hey Looney. Okay, sec. The cats want something. I think food. Dry food maybe. Maybe. Today at work I was thinking about one emote which I really wanted to implement, but I forgot it again. Entered brain. Anyways, we're almost 99 people. Whoop whoop.
I can't do this just yet.
Okay. Really hard to click the shrines. Oh. Okay, and we're ramping. Ramping. How many HH stacks? Cannot see, it's too many buffs. 7. Okay, ooh, speed. Ramping. I really like Abyss, dude. With the Headhunter, Abyss is really fun. Okay. Oh. Divine Shrine, we got it. Unkillable. Literally unkillable. Do we have Echo too? Oh. Man, I'm getting speed shrines. Ah, no, it's the skeleton one. Spawn minions. %. Let's go. So I think I'm gonna do I feel like I don't know, maybe I kinda wanna play what's it called? Spark character. I've had a Spark character a while ago. I think I had it with an HH2. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
I can't do this just yet.
And then I wanna try strongbox farming in Crimson Temple. I watched a video on my way home, or listened to it, from Anime Princess, who is a Spark player. And yeah. This tactic kinda sounds kinda cool. That's all the gamble you guys gonna get from me. That's good enough for you. I'm pretty sure. I feel like Spark is decent every league. Thing is, on Spark you can go... The Gamba is strongboxes, open, like have a chance to open like 30% again, and then what we want, the Gamba, is we're hoping for what's it called? Apothecary cards. Isn't that exciting? Ooh, so exciting. How's that sound? Oh. Can never make a You guys happy? No downside. Not gamble if it's not downside. God damn it, Mike. You could just decide to not do that instead, you know? I think next league I'm just gonna do Shockwave Crit. And stick to maces slash staves. Sorry, but I'm not doing Delve at the moment.
I can't do this just yet.
Oh, I even missed a part of the map. I also watched Connor and his mana stacking shenanigans, but I feel like that's too expensive. Mana stacking roof and mana forged arrows. Looks very interesting. But I think not. But I kinda wanna try it, I never did mana stacking. Okay. Yeah, don't worry. My eyes are set on that goal. Don't worry. By the way, I forgot my keys. I drove Nana to work. I forgot my keys to the apartment. And then I used a plastic bottle and the first aid scissor from my car to break into my apartment, and it worked. Plastic bottles OP. Yep, you can do it. Too bad I'm home all the time, huh? Okay. So, how many tier 1s What are we gonna get? Boom. Tier 1. This dispels 5 chaos and then 11. Wait. 5, 11, and 1 divine. Why is it one divine? Tier 2, chaos damage to attacks. Okay, this one's trash. Tier 1, fire damage to attacks, lightning damage to attacks. No. Trash. Nana literally just wrote me in WhatsApp, CACW. What the fuck? We completely corrupted her now. Okay, tier 1 strength, tier 1 dex, tier 1... Avoid being ignited. And mana doesn't exist. Why is this the same price again? And we have another tier 1. It's so fucking weird. Why? Why is that a thing? That one doesn't exist. I don't know how to price that. Another tier 1. Isn't this fucking weird, man? Why? Is this... Check what? This fire damage to attacks, bolt attacks. Minus max, now fuck that shit. Crit multi, chain, life, fist damage, extra chaos, nope. Hexproof, yeah, I can live with that. Heartle, tormented spirits. Okay. Okay, the beginning of the map is always a bit scary. Then we're chilling. Okay, 83% now. Ouch. Not dying would be very nice. Also, looking at those freeze kills, the shatter kills, I really want to make a cold cyclone with hatred and Heart of Ice, man. Or we just play Flicker. Now that we can make such insane acts, since we have our items, we have the money. Not play Cold Flicker. Or just a Flicker. Wind Scream. Oh no, I have Shroud Walker. Teleporting. Ooh, we're fast. $85. And I love the strat. Grinding to 100 actually doesn't feel super bad. Seeing that a map gives you percentages is nice.
Before someone else comes.
I can't do this just yet.
Another abyss. Who's Shroud Walker again? Yep. PoE Lurker. Lurker. Very good. Once you have it. Wait, no. There you go. TTS is on. You guys just hear it. Yeah. PoE Lurker. Once you have it, let me know and I'll explain to you. Hey, there's depths. Got something good.
I love Git, but I hate Git.
You talking about GitHub? There should be just a .exe. Okay, 3 o'clock again. Or east, if you will. hard east. Where are my... Ah, there it is. Corrupted Jewel. Tier 1 taunt, Tier 1 effect of cold ailments. Tier 1 damage over time. Max mana.
It's running, I guess.
Okay, so when someone writes you wants to buy an item, down here, shit you cannot see, down here at my hand, a little window will pop up. If you go very closely to that window with your mouse, on the top left, if you mouse over in the top left corner, it will highlight a blue little corner. If you click that blue little corner, it will tell the buyer, hey, I think the standard message is like, hey, I'm busy right now, I'll come back to you. If you go to the top right window, the top right corner, there's a small red area. You click that, you just delete the little pop-up window thing, and yeah, out of sight, out of mind. If you just click the little window itself, you will invite the person. Any rest, tier 1. Speed. Low attacks. Yeah. If you hold shift, if you hold control and shift and left click the window, it will ask the person, hey, are you still interested in that item? For example, you missed a message for a while. If you just hold control, left click, you will tell the person, hey, sorry, the item is sold. That's all.
I believe in traveling light.
Finding a lot of dark ray vectors. Wind screams go for 10 kills. Come on! Wow. People are horny for the wind scream, for their summoners, for their guardians. Quick tank phase. Phasing. Fire damage. Dual wielding. Crit chance if you have crit. Avoid chance being shocked. 10. Max mana. Taunt. Effect of cold. Did. 86, my guys. 80 fucking 6%. Are we feeling the abyssal depth? Are we doing it on this guy? Look, hopefully got a few rares here. This guy.
Practice makes
And
perfect.
this guy. Ooh, extra fizz. I'll go to the boss. Should die easily. Ooh, the bubble. Dip, dip. Okay. Getting whatever rares are alive here. Adaptive resistances. I like to see it.
Can't I alterate the maps via Necropolis function? Do I miss SMTH?
I can't. Hold on. Pain, if you're here, can you decipher that? I'm too dumb right now.
I can't do the Necropolis mob alteration thingy on maps. Am I doing SMTH wrong?
Cannot do Necropolis mob alteration.
With the all flames.
Wait.
Maybe they're too low level. And here's what you have to do. To be a certain level. Here. Tell me if you're doing something different than me. Okay, put the map in. And just activate it. Boom. Ooh, monsters granted 600% increased experience and it's rats. And here's your all flames. And what you do is right click, left click them once, and then do it again. Left click, left click.
That screen isn't opening.
Okay, then I think what you did is you picked this. Haunted and devoted mods are applied randomly to packs in your maps. Did you pick that?
Ups.
Ah, at the moment, it's doing it for you. But I think you're just fucking yourself
Heck.
with that. So yeah. Okay, we want... Okay, we have enough shrines. It's 4. Let's go for an abyss. Lady. $87. If I didn't have to work tomorrow, I would probably push for now. But it is what it is. Yo, it's one of those amusing teachings. $88. 112% experience, and I'm done with the grind. Then it'll not matter if I die in maps. Be sad that I die. Can't believe I'm still not corrupted by them yet. What am I doing? In 30 minutes, there is an interview between Josh, Strive, Hayes, and I think Jonathan. Jonathan fucking Rogers from Grinding Gear Games from New Zealand. We have 89! Woo! Let's go, Cyclone. Let's go. I already have 4 characters this league at 90 plus. Kinda crazy. Nana told me I should grow out a stash. I've never worn a stash in my life before. Oh, is this guy gonna be scary? I fear that I'll look like a pedophile. Pedophile? Sorry. God damn it. Also, another build that's gonna be really great, maybe I'll do this instead, is just a good old Herald of Thunder auto bomber. That build is pretty amazing too. Turns out, by the way, I learned this from Catmaster OP, a recent podcast, that those purple crystals that the Crystal Skin Rare mod drops and then explode, they aren't actually doing chaos damage. They're doing cold fire and lightning. Who the fuck should have known that? I didn't know that. They're purple. Why aren't they doing purple damage? Purple damage is chaos damage. 90%! Woo! Tier 1 life. Tier 1 hinder. Chaos damage to spells, but let's do... This one is 40 chaos, this one is 40. So...
I can't do this just yet.
Yo, maybe we gamble with some Piranda's Pack jewels. Should do that. Oh, no tier 1. They have to be rare. Oh. Max life, cast speed. Monsters have a chance to blind. Evasion well. Ten divines? Are you fucking kidding me? Wait. Where is it? This is garbage too. I mean, look at the stats. First of all, it's corrupted. Changing the anoint is expensive. So it has to be good. It has no life. It has crit multi, okay, and rarity, okay, but nah. Not nearly good enough. Did I already run around here? $80. feel like the cat is more hungry. We're feeling wet food this time. I think we are. BRB. Ah, okay. Cast speed, life, minions have chance to blind, and on top of evasion too. Five. Global crit chance. Aces and scepters. Ooh. Okay. I think we have one here. This one doesn't exist. This one doesn't exist. I'll give it 50 chaos. Tier 1 life region. I don't feel like this can sell. Tier 1 life. Spells to hinder. Chaos damage. 40 chaos. If it sells. We clear the map, do we loot the map? Next one with 90%. Okay. We're doing Variety, extra fizz, maim. Should be okay. Ooh, big XP! Cannot be stunned. That is okay. That is okay. Damage. Damage. Okay. We are going. 90% people. Writing this down.
90%.
So let's not die. Step 1. Okay, kill him up. Get the shrine buff. Check. Get another shrine buff. And
Can't
we
do this
are
just yet.
going. This time, it's time for some headhunter buffs. Of course, we have the Shroud Walker again. Let's hope we don't activate the second abyss here with our teleporting. Okay, one is popped, second one go. Good. 91% people. Another 1% in the bag. 7,000 life. Save. Oh, we got the big speed shrine. That's big. Let's go. Cyclone of Tumult has speed penalty. Where? %, people. 92. 108%. And we're done. Can't believe it.
Hail.
Eight hole is a very nice map. Sadly, we lost the big speed shrine. 93%. Ah, small shrine. Got it. Do we restart? Okay, it's already 3% of this map. Yeah, on this map. Lair, that's actually a pretty okay layout too, pretty linear. We like it. Okay. Easy clear. I think we're doing some bosses once we're 100 as well. I think we'll try without Headhunter, just with the Raslathas and Abysses. Try and see how it goes. Yeah, but maybe we want the cluster jewel setup before. Maybe we're spending all our money on the cluster jewels.
Gods.
Get fucked in.
I knew you could be reasonable.
Just who I was hoping to see today.
Ouch. Oh my god, those guys can actually fuck me up, dude. God.
Just do it, you git. Death.
Couldn't see the HP bar moving.
Death is
It
what
moved.
should have given them the
94!
to play it spy.
Guys, 4%. Okay. Chaos Res. Ben. Red.
Are you sure about that one? Seems risky.
Into lightning, immune to chaos. Oh wait, one more.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm not doing that one. The last one. Oh wait, it's here. Let's not die. Let's go ham.
Glorious.
Nice. Very, very well done, people. Okay, it's time to loot. Stop it. Okay, we're starting at 7 o'clock. I could do the safe house Headhunter, but sometimes the syndicate is too rippy, so it's not.
I believe in traveling light.
I'm actually full. And the filter is already pretty strict, so. Per Quill's toe is... Oh wow, it raised in price. Got 8 chaos for this. Oh, doing mini builds now. Offense. Didn't even spec into them. I'm gonna put him all flames in here too. Okay, are we getting a good implicit? We are not, of course. This league, it's been very meh for corrupting uniques, honestly. Those are the jewels. Mana, bad. Ellie, crit chance with cold. No. That's a no. That's a no.
Oh hey sexy boy.
A banana. Avoid bleeding, 32. Additional fizz damage. We are sitting at 10 chaos. This one doesn't. Starts at 10. I'm closing in on the level 100. We are level 98 with 94% XP. So, avoid being ignited. Taunt on hit. Lightning damage. Okay. Did you work today, banana?
But you can have those as a gift. I did not. Day off.
Ah, that's awesome. Nice. Ooh. Wait, we did want to go back actually. Just a bit more. Started there.
I can't do this just yet.
Small.
Redeemed 500 burpees if you didn't see that on your end.
Didn't. Shit. Did I do 5 push-ups yesterday?
Yep, I redeemed 52.
No. That's 5. I don't think I redeemed anything. Like, you also
Round
had...
up to n even 600?
Okay, bro. Okay, I'm doing your...
Sounds good to me. Seems good.
You guys. Alright, I'll do the things. There's 4 things I need to do. Oh, first of all, I need to let the cat in again. Because when they eat, they need to be...
Emma Mattress, welcome to heaven.
Ah, yeah, I do have one. You didn't know, or we haven't talked about it? Yeah, it's currently airing out still. We're sitting at 38 hours airing. Nana really wants to do the 72. Emma said do 72 hours, so...
OMG, have you had one yet?
No, we haven't. Is it a big difference? It's airing out at the moment. It's luften. It lufts.
Oh man, what a FK and game changer for my back.
Really? I can't wait, dude. I really want to use it today.
Fenster auf Kipp.
Fenster auf Kipp? Nope. Fully open. Otherwise, it's not real Luft. Open the fucking windows. No Kipp. Kipp, bad. Banana, I forgot my keys for my apartment today and drove Nana to work, and when I was at home, or in front of the door, I was like, fuck, I forgot my keys. So I went back to the car and got a plastic bottle and a scissor from the first aid kit, cut the plastic bottle and broke into my own apartment. Piece of plastic. It took, sadly, quite a while, but I'm in.
B12 deficiency and criminal leanings, hallmarks of a vegan mind.
You are hilarious, sir. Okay. I'll quickly mute, take a bite, and then we start doing the things. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 things. 5 push-ups from Pain yesterday. 5
Tattooed
burpees.
and criminal.
Oh wait, that's 5 burpees from Banana. Then 10 squats from Kim, but I think I wait for Kim. And then 5 burpees from Banana 7 minutes ago. I'll do 10 squats for free for you guys.
Why not 20? Lol. Pussies love squats apparently. Now he flexes with his gadsa. Parallel, soldier. No ass to grass, think of your knees.
Ooh. That was rough. You guys got my pulse
Now breath low.
pumping. You know? Look. Ah, okay, that's cute. Mike wants me to drink. Yes, yes, we'll do. We're a little bit left here. We have tea on top.
That won't do it.
Yeah, I know. I have more. Next one. Ugh. Okay, you guys chill. Look, my arms look kind of scrawny, I guess, but they're pretty lean. Like, there's no fat, or at least not a lot. You know, they're not too bad. Oh yeah. Could be worse. Ah, thanks for the workout, guys. Shit.
Can you flex next time?
Sure. Oh wow, that was an insult. That's rude. Fuck. Holy shit. Okay. What do we have? Red multi. Look, those three don't even exist already. And chance whipping stun. This is another crazy fucking jewel.
JK, you're 100 times fitter than me.
Okay. Next map. We need maps. What are we doing? Underground river.
Okay, that all tired me out, so we'll lurk now until sleep.
Alright, dude. Already saying have a good night. Oh shit! The interview is beginning. Josh. Strive Hayes. Where's his fucking Twitch? It should be now. The fuck?
Das neue Axe Black Vanilla?
Ah. Fuck off. Bro, German ads.
Kommt euch näher mit Axe Black Vanilla. Ein Duft so nice wie Parfum.
Gone with it, and you've been like, okay, we're here now. Let's just make a game. I like that. It's a pretty good. That's.
You know, I
love
did
Josh.
want to be a game developer even when I was a kid. Like I really did. It's funny 'cause it is actually not a job I randomly walked into. I did. You know, it's funny. Even when I was 10 years old, I knew I wanted to be a game developer. It's one of those things that, at that point, I kind of actually lost all interest in pretty much any other subject of school or anything else like that, and I was just like, you know what, I'm being a game developer. I don't need to care about all of this other, you know, random stuff in school. This is what I'm doing. So it was kind of always one of those things, and to me, it was all about like, where am I going to find that opportunity?
How about I send you my HID training and we can buy one representative for points?
When I was probably about, how old would I have been? 13, something like that. He was also someone who was very interested in game development. So I kind of just latched onto him.
Please let me
He
chill.
was actually a bit older than I was. And then at the point where he was getting to the point where he thought we could maybe start a game studio, I was kind of already there, you know, being friends with him. And I was
Chris,
like, you know
good
what,
idea. Let's do it.
I need to be, yes, I need to be part of that. And so the initial, like the start of our company, like Chris was very much the one who had the vision of what it was that we were going to make, and I just knew that I wanted to be a game developer. Like that was my thing. I just knew that that was my one shining star. That is what I'm going to do with my life. And so and as I said, Chris was the one who was like, you know, here's a game that we can make that's going to be extremely successful. And I was like, you know what? I mean, certainly I am a big fan of Diablo 2, but if you were to ask me what my favorite games were at that time, it wasn't at the top of the list, surprisingly.
What was?
Probably Half-Life at the time.
Sure.
I would say maybe StarCraft. I mean, these are just like late 90s bangers, right? Like, you know, just the games that everyone loved. But like those are two. I mean, Final Fantasy VII as well, probably. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about like those three. I would say from my childhood.
I mean, the reason I've got Strife as a kind of middle pseudonym is because I loved Cloud Strife so much in the Final Fantasy VII game. That's where it came from. I absolutely adored that. And we're going to get onto a question later about what childhood games have kind of inspired choices that you've made in game development, whether it's a good choice or a bad choice specifically. But there's a really important question in the chat right now that we need to address is what is on your shirt? Because people are loving the design on the front of it.
Right, it's a t-shirt that was actually designed by one of the Path of Exile community.
Okay.
So based on the map, Whakawai Aotaro. And basically it's just obviously we have like various sort of Maori design in the game quite a lot, and so the t-shirt is kind of like of that nature. And yeah, I'm a fan. It's actually my favorite t-shirt, but it was designed by one of the fans of PoE1. I think we had a competition or something like that, and it was I think it was for sale at ExileCon, something like that. I don't know. Actually, like my wardrobe at this point pretty much consists entirely of Path of Exile t-shirts.
What the fuck?
I have literally hundreds of them, and literally nothing else. So
Hilarious.
At the next convention, we just see you scavenging around all of the boxes of shirts. Be like, this will do me for the year. This will hold me.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, my wardrobe just looks like that scene out of Dragon Ball Z. It's literally just hanging up white shirts and waistcoats. It's the same outfit repeatedly. So I totally get that.
Right.
We've gone through one question. We've been here 15 minutes. It's going good. We've got quite a few left to go. Guys, if in the chat, if you do want to ask questions, please feel free to ask, and I'll try and get them through. Let's go to the next question, which is super important. Question one, technically, because now we've kind of established who we are. This is a very important question to kind of set the vibe of the entire interview. How's your day going?
It's okay. Could be better. Bit of sleep deprivation. You know, I've got a 4-year-old that can be.
Oh wow.
The kids can be tough, but you know, pretty good on overall, I would say.
Sweet. I appreciate that. That's good. Now we've set the vibe for it. Let's go to the next very important question. Question two.
Ouch.
Why Path of Exile 2. Why not just make a big expansion for Path of Exile 1? What actually required you guys to say, we need a whole new game instead of just making an expansion?
So, Path of Exile 2 really is the most absurd feature creep story that ever existed in the world, honestly. So the very first thing that happened was, okay, what is currently the worst thing about Path of Exile? And the thing that we said that we weren't liking was actually melee combat.
I think question 7 is, why do you hate melee? So we'll get to that eventually.
We were very unhappy. It's like, well, why is the melee combat bad? Well, the reason it's bad is because it's very hard for us to make new melee skills. Well, why is it hard for us to make new melee skills? Well, the reason for that is because the rigs for the characters were literally the first thing that got made back at the very beginning in 2007, early 2007. And so they are the oldest asset in the game. Not only that, but they were made by someone who wasn't exactly a world-class rigger at the time. You know what I mean? Like, we were a studio with like a few people in New Zealand. It's not like we had access to like all these, you know, things. So that sort of core thing, the character rig, was something that was made at the earliest point with the least experience. And the problem with character rigs is not only did we have a character rig that was made that way, but we also had a different one for every character class, which means that every animation you make, you have to make 7 times.
What was the benefit of having a different rig for every class? Did the differences facilitate that?
There wasn't one. We just didn't think about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's simple. It's that simple.
So hang on. I know there's that joke about feature bloat going into Path of Exile 1 and the fact there's just too much stuff and feature creep. Right. Are you saying from the very first day you had different rigs for different classes with no real reason to have that?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's the foundation. The game is built on too much stuff. This is beautiful. Yep. Sorry, carry on. Why do we need a whole new game instead of an expansion?
Yeah. So then, we're and the problem with this as well is that, so all of your armors in the game are rigs for those character rigs, right? So not only, if you want to change this, not only do you have to redo all the armors in the game and all the character animations as well, but like it's just a huge task. So we set out, the first thing we set out to do was, okay, even though this is a huge task, even though it's going to take us a really long time, we're going to remake these character rigs. And then when we did that, and we started seeing the animation that we could do on the new rigs, we're like, okay, well this looks a lot better, but one of the other issues that we've got is at the beginning of the game also just looks really old. We really should do some refreshing of the art. So then Eric set out, he's like, we're gonna do some refreshes of this art and try to make the beginning of the game look better again. And it only took a little bit of time doing that before we're like, okay, well, if we're making new areas, we might as well not bother just remaking the previous areas. What we really should do is make some new areas, because then, you know, that will be new content and it takes a amount of effort anyway. So we might as well just do that. So then we're like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to make an alternative Act 1 that you can play instead of Act 1 in the game. So, or even what we'll do is we thought maybe we'll replace Act 1 with another version of it, like that you start somewhere else and we've got, like, you know, and effectively these and it worked like this. So we're sort of doing that, and then eventually we got to the point where we realized that we really wanted to make a whole new campaign, because, you know, the old campaign really was starting to show its age. Like, we could do a lot better now, all this sort of stuff. So we just sort of went along this way, and that point where we're like, we're going to make a new campaign, that was where we ended up when we announced PoE 2 initially, where it was going to be the same game but with 2 campaigns.
So your
and
solution
then from there,
to the game containing too much stuff was to make more stuff for the game.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
guys,
It always is.
we made way too much stuff when we started this. We made it difficult for ourselves. So what we're going to do is make far more stuff, and then it'll be, you know, it'll be better. We'll dig ourselves out of this hole by digging more hole, and eventually you realized we've just got a second game on our hands now.
Exactly. It literally was the point where we're like, we're remaking everything. The actual moment of we have to change from making an expansion to PoE 1 and to making it as PoE 2 is just separate, was just the point where we realized that things were changing so much that we couldn't even really viably patch it into Path of Exile 1 without it causing significant problems in the community. Just like, even just that migration would have been absolutely insane. And so then, like, okay, so effectively, Path of Exile 2 is a like weird cancerous growth from PoE 1 that kind of metastasized into its own entity, in a way, which doesn't sound like the most amazing birth of a game project ever, but surprisingly, that is kind of how it
looking
works.
at this and going, we can fix this. We can design more stuff and fix this and it'll be great. That is, by the way, that is going to be the quote that the chat take and run with. And that's why Jonathan's in charge of this, because he will make memorable quotes for this game. For anyone who's just joining us in the stream, we've now got 2,500 people hanging out with us. Jonathan's the game developer, game designer, the kind of lead of Path of Exile 2, and I'm a guy that likes games, so I'm asking him lots of questions. However, I am aware... Jonathan, how many of these interviews have you done so far? You spoke to Preach, you've spoken to Zizaran...
Yeah, but I don't know, probably about 5. I don't know. I'm not actually keeping that too hard of a count on it.
You just turn up and give
like
you a microphone, you just speak to whoever's there, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much.
Excellent.
I mean,
so they've given you a couple of interviews so far, lots of stuff. Spoke to Darth Microtransactions. I've watched lots of these. There was a try, that was really good. It was these people have asked you so many in-depth questions, and we need to kind of vary away from the super in-depth, because not everyone is a super in-depth hardcore and franchise player. Some people are just casuals. Some people care about you as a person. So let's go on. So the answer to Path of Exile, why is a Path of Exile 2 required, is the scope of what you did was just so massive that you wouldn't have been able to integrate it back into Path of Exile 1 even if you wanted to.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Let's go to question 3, a really important question. Could you beat Chris Wilson in a fist fight?
No.
Come on, Jonathan, I'm rooting for you here. I've got some money on that. No.
Here's the thing. Chris, when he was younger, did martial arts. So that's a definitely point in his favor. He's definitely got that on me.
What?
I've never done anything like that.
Okay.
He also goes to the gym now very frequently.
Oh, is Chris hench? Next time we see him, Chris is just massive and buff.
So yeah, I think he's probably got me beat on that one, honestly.
What the fuck?
I think he's also just taller. That's always a
Okay, so the next time there's any kind of Path of Exile convention and you have the PoE 1 and the PoE 2 kind of armies running at each other with Chris leading one, I'm showing he's still there, are you going to be running at the front of the PoE 2 boys as well? We need to know that you've got us, that you're supporting us, Jonathan. I need to know that I'm following you.
Well, I mean, I'm game for anything, but yes.
Fantastic. Excellent. What we do after the interview is up to us. Okay, question 3, that was very important. Could Jonathan beat Chris Wilson in a fight? Answer, probably not, because Chris has trained and is going to the gym. Jonathan, what's your favourite class in the game?
In PoE 2 or PoE 1?
Let's start with PoE 1, then go on to 2.
In PoE 1, I'd say it's the Ranger.
Why? Is it because melee sucks?
Yes. that is the reason.
What the?
There was no hesitation at all with that answer.
Right. And in PoE 2, I would say it's the Monk. And I think I've actually answered this about this before, but it's effectively because it was the first time when I feel like we actually managed to get melee not to suck.
So you're playing it like, this is what it should be like. This is how it should work.
Yes,
this is
exactly. Yes, that's when I felt like we finally hit something. So yeah, that's kind of the reason why that. But that being said, like, I mean, every one that we make new, I'm like, I start to appreciate again the most. But I still think Monk is really where my heart is.
I love it. I've just got this image in my head now. I love this of you.
What happened? What happened? No, it froze. Well? Oh! Oh, fuck off! Dude! What is this game? No rest for the wicked. Leave! Fuck you!
Or two people just installing it. I think a lot of people, whenever they're in that kind of echo chamber of high-level gameplay, whether it's Reddit or Twitch or forums, because if you're watching on Twitch right now, chances are you're already
Adblock
one of the
is your
more
friend.
franchise players. But from every game that I've looked at, every game designer that I've spoken to, the vast majority of a player base is always a casual player base. They're not actually seeing the ultra-hardcore, ultra-high-level stuff. They see the start, they see most of the middle bit, and then maybe they get to the end and kill the final boss. So how much of the game development time is based on casual content versus ultra-hardcore content? And how can you effectively work with both groups of players?
So I guess I wouldn't necessarily stratify them
Ah,
into two
what the
groups. It really is much more of a spectrum. And so then the question really then becomes is, okay, so presumably we want to make it so the game gets harder as you go through it. Although that isn't a given, right? Like we could make a game which is approximately even difficulty through the whole game. And I think that that is actually what a lot of games do target. But because we sort of have an end game and we want to have it so that there's a lot of room for growth of your skill, because and to get into why that is for a second, because of the fact that we want to have a game where you can come back and play league upon league, and so we want to kind of have like a skill ceiling that is high enough that it can survive that process. We want to have eventually get to the point where the game becomes hard enough that most people can't get through it.
Okay.
Right? Now, where should that place be? That is a tricky one.
I would say it's going to be probably after the final, story beat, if you will, after the final narrative beat.
Certainly after that. Then the question is, how far into endgame is it? You want people to get to endgame and play endgame certainly a certain amount. Now, I don't have a real answer for you exactly where this point should be per se, but what I would say is that as the game continues, that point has kind of like for PoE1, that point has kind of crept up a bit. Like the expectation of how high through the content that a player expects to be able to get has increased, and that's actually caused some kind of effects that are maybe annoying is the wrong word, but like it kind of has changed like a little bit, like the way that that we've had to design things. So the expectation, I suppose you might say, is that and I use this word very loosely, that a casual player should be able to get all the way up to kind of like T16 maps and complete them and have that be fine. And what that means is that, yeah, like as I said, it kind of breaks a little bit of the sort of design that you want to try and do, because you want that difficulty scale somewhat linearly, but what we've ended up with is this weird knee in the curve where like the game goes from like kind of a relatively, well, once again, flat is the wrong word, flat relatively speaking, difficulty curve, to this point where suddenly you get to the very end of the end game and everything just becomes like shockingly difficult. I don't know that I'm quite happy with that, but I also don't know what we can quite do about it. It's a little bit tricky.
See, to me, there were those two kind of casual moments in the Path of Exile 1 narrative where the first one is you fight Kitava, and the second one is you effectively kill Kitava, and you lose 25% of your resistances kind of permanently. That is almost a kind of hard step down in player power, a hard step up in difficulty. Right. Like as soon as you complete this content, 30%, thank you in chat, as soon as you do this content, the rest of the content is going to be, you're going to find it more difficult, even if it's exactly the same difficulty as it was before, because your character is weakened specifically. Right. And it's such unless you've specifically built around this, which you would only know to do if you were a returning player or a more hardcore player using the wiki, unless you'd built around this incoming weakness, that's a moment of difficulty. Do you think that is a smooth moment of difficulty, or do you think there's a way that you can do that better?
So I'll first talk about the reason why we do that at all. So there's one of these things where a lot of game designers, if you want to have something like resistances, and you want it so that throughout the game you can get more and more of these resistances, so by effectively the amount of you get gear which has more and more resistance on it, like you want numbers to go up, as it were. Then effectively you need to find some way to make it so that there's some form of diminishing returns in the calculation. Because if we just had percentages and you could just go up forever, you'd either reach you'd either have to give such small amounts at the beginning of the game that the difference is that feels irrelevant. Like, if you get an item that's like 2% fire resistance, you're like, well, screw that. What's the point of this? You know what I mean? It's useless. That sucks, definitely. So we want you to actually have a reasonable numbers at the beginning. So we want you to get up to numbers like therefore 75% at the beginning of like somewhat not too far into the game. What we can do then, one way to solve this, which is the way we have, is that we can just effectively have resistance penalties that get taken off every now and then. But the way that other games do it is they have ratings. And an example of a rating is something that we do have, is something like armor, where it's just a number that doesn't have any inherent meaning, but there's an equation somewhere that backs what that does, and we can put whatever complexity we want into that, although ideally it's not too insane, but like we can put complexity behind that that can get us to the right numbers. So a game can have, like you get like 30 armor at the start of the game, and that feels like it means something as far as reducing the damage your character takes. and then you can also get 1,000 armor late in the game, and it also has some effect, and that's sort of compatible as well. So that's the rating approach. And games actually more and more, like game designers love ratings because you can just use them to effectively get whatever curve you want. It's controllable. You just give out a certain amount of stuff, and it all kind of works. But the problem is, I kind of don't like them because they don't feel real. Like if I was giving you like lightning resistance points that like 16 lightning resist points that kind of weren't inherently tied to anything particularly, then that would, I feel, just be a worse experience. Like you understand what you're getting when you get 16% lightning resist, and sure, there's some things where you get penalties later on, but like inherently the stat is easy to understand. And for some reason it's okay when you're talking about armor points, and you can just accept that and it feels intuitive, but yet it wouldn't if you're getting lightning resistance points. Like it just doesn't feel the same. So we only ever use ratings if they just kind of have this strange feeling of it's just somehow okay. And I don't really know quite how to say when one is versus the other, but that's how we feel about it. So that's the reason why we have this. So we need some way to decrease your resistances. Now, the next thing I want to say is that one thing I actually like is that, and this is more of a thing when you're talking about going between one act to another. When you go from one act to another, I like there to be a feeling of, I guess, tension and release, where you do have a different experience when you go from one act to the other, where like, okay, normally this is the opposite direction of what you just said, right? Like it gets hard up towards the end of Act 1, and you get to the beginning of Act 2 and it's a bit easier again, just because like, you sort of get that experience. So that doesn't necessarily gel very well with the whole like taking resistances away from your character. But like there is this thing of like of if we like, so another thing we could have done, for example, with the resistance thing is like every level we just slowly reduce your resistance. But I think that's just technically worse than having a moment where it happens, because like as I said, when you're changing from one experience to another, having the feeling of like, okay, now I was having to deal with this, now I'm having to deal with that. Like it's just that more sort of binary thing that occurs is just a better feel. So I guess that's just sort of a nebulous cloud of thoughts that I have around this. Around this issue. So that's kind of why it is, and like why we did this way as opposed to another way. As for is it a good idea to do that as you get into maps, I guess I must have at some point felt like it was, because we certainly decided to do that. But I would say that the intention behind this is not so much to say to the player, hey, you're going into endgame, now I'm going to screw you. The intention is more around, we need to solve this problem with increasing stats, and we need some good way to deliver that. Where are we going to do it? So I guess that is maybe a somewhat unsatisfactory answer to the question of why.
It's a complex thing. I mean, Path of Exile is the amount of questions we're having in the chat. I can see we've had 2,000 people raid. We're up to about 5,000 people hanging out and watching you answer these questions now, which is fantastic. But to me, Path of Exile has, and we'll get onto this specifically later, a lot of complexity creep, a lot of feature creep. And when you talk about the fact that there is an algorithm somewhere, there is a kind of calculation that takes into account armor value, that takes into account all those other numbers. I almost picture that in the office you open a door to like a side office where originally there was maybe a server or a computer that was working out all these calculations, but it's so incredibly complicated now that when you open that door, it's just this kind of pulsating void of energy that kind of runs the game, and no one's entirely sure how every armor value works. It just does work, and we hope that it stays like that.
There is a person who basically understands how it all works. Mark 1, as he's called, because he was the first Mark we hired, as opposed to the second Mark we hired. He actually, I would say, has probably one of the more encyclopedic knowledges of how all of that stuff works. And there is an absurd amount of stats in theory, like truly absurd. I would say a number, but I'm probably out of date. But it wouldn't even surprise me if the number was over 50,000 stats. It might even be up to 100,000 stats at this point.
So I picture him just sitting in the office now, kind of almost floating in midair with his legs crossed, and someone walks in and just goes, "What does this gem do?" And you show him, and he specifically tells you exactly how it works, combined with everything else and what it can link up.
Pretty much, yes. He has certainly the whole knowledge. And the scary thing is, there are so many implications at this point to change anything. Like you change anything, and there are like 10 other things that break. And it's like, holy crap! Like just the amount of stuff that it would be literally impossible to fully QA this game, to fully know the repercussion of every single change we make. Yeah. it's
Carrot,
honestly,
well, I am off,
terrifying.
night
And
is
then you
short.
look at like the number of sort of economic exploits that came out.
Have a good night.
of,
I'm going to bed soon as well.
The stuff we did in the last league.
Hope you're having
like,
fun
a lot
though.
of that stuff was just not
Good night,
predictable.
dude.
Like you need the hundreds of thousands of players to find this stuff, and it's because there are stats that everyone's forgotten.
Sure.
About. Like that there are mechanics that exist that no one even remembered that can be used as part of interaction with something. Yeah, like it really would be impossible to find everything.
So I very much love the card game Magic the Gathering, and I think this actually ties into the complexity. We were talking about this briefly when we were doing a sound check before this whole stream went live, where you used to play, it was a drafting Lorwyn, wasn't it?
Yeah, we drafted tons at the beginning.
Now, to me, Magic the Gathering is one of those games where the more cards they bring out, they completely forget that they will interact with old cards in ways that they never imagined, because there are just so many cards. I mean, rip my boy Birthing Pod, I am still a Birthing Pod player. I know that card has to get banned because it's too powerful. And there's a couple of other games that actually took Magic the Gathering as inspiration. I think the most famous one was Guild Wars 1, which you can... Have you played Guild Wars 1 before, Jonathan?
Absolutely. In fact, it was both Chris and I played a bunch of Guild Wars 1, and we were very much... I actually took a huge amount of inspiration from that game as well, in various ways. Yeah.
So tell me, what... Because for anyone in the chat who hasn't played Guild Wars 1, I love the fact that when you go back to a city or a safe zone, you can set up your character's attacks. And I believe it's almost done like a hand of cards. I think it's 7 or 8 attacks that you can give yourself, 7 or 8 skills, and then you go to the adventure zone and you use the skills to fight. And then when you go back into a city, you can change around those skills, and you can find new skills in new cities, and you can even take skills away from monsters. But ultimately, it's almost like setting up a deck of cards that you then go to fight with. And I really enjoy that. So when I see games that have taken anything from Guild Wars 1, I'm happy. If you say you've taken stuff from Guild Wars 1, talk me through it, Jonathan. In fact, let's make this broader. What video games have you played that you have stolen from for Path of Exile 2?
I mean, I think it would be hard almost to come up with a list of games I haven't stolen from at this point. Like every time we make a league, we're just blatantly cribbing mechanics from non-action RPGs and bringing them into an action RPG. So, like, I mean, I tend to play a lot of different things. But I mean, yeah, like honestly, it's hard to even list them all because we're constantly on the lookout for mechanics and so on. And,
can you think of any specific examples? Maybe a mechanic that you're trying to put into Path of Exile 2, or a mechanic that you are proud of that you have basically just ripped off from somewhere else? Because there's nothing new under the sun. All of my YouTube ideas were taken from other channels. I just managed to bring them all together. You steal from everything. The best way to be original is to learn how to hide your sources. That's what I was always taught. So can you give us maybe 1 or 2 examples of mechanics that maybe players did or didn't know about that you can say, we started with this that already existed?
It's honestly really hard to think about, but it's kind of weird because a lot of the time I'm looking at things and how they morphed into other things. So for example, when we began with Harvest, obviously we were looking at, like farming simulators and like Harvest Moon and this kind of thing, and looking at what we could do. And then it ended up very different. Like that's kind of where we started. And then when we started with Delve, weirdly enough, the first beginning was, okay, how can we do Minecraft? We need to do Minecraft. We need to find a way. What is that going to look like? And then it morphed into something that ended up being completely different than that, in like a totally different way. But a lot of these things end up that way. But I mean, more recently as well, when we're looking at, okay, so, okay, here is a random feature that Path of Exile 2 will have that's not in the game right now, but we're blatantly stealing, which is that, so I've always been stringently against damage numbers in video games. I just don't. I mean, I know there are people who love damage numbers, and that's like a huge thing for them. Like, there's a certain thing, but I've always been of the opinion that they break the immersion, and that's all you end up looking at, and so I don't really love them. And then the other day, someone was like, "Can we do damage numbers like Elden Ring?" I'm like, "What? Elden Ring has damage numbers? What are you talking about?" And then like, yeah, the damage numbers in Elden Ring. And I'm like, hang on a minute. And then they showed me a video and I'm like, hang on. So there's a little number that appears at the top right of health bars that are the damage numbers. And I'm like, my goodness, this is a way I didn't even notice that was there. This is a way that we can do damage numbers that isn't going to break any of the problems we have. So I'm just gonna shamelessly rip that off. Path of Exile 2 will have damage numbers just like they are in Elden Ring.
The interview's worth it. We got information. Yeah. Everyone in the chat right now, we've got information. This is good.
So we absolutely do that. Yeah. So that is one of those things that we there's finally a way, and that is just a blatant like theft, right? It's just a straight up UI design. I never would have thought of it. It is something that they had, and it perfectly fits the that thing. So there you go.
We've learned
that
one
is the
thing.
with
I've done my job.
Yep.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Everyone in the chat right now, there you go. We've got it. We've got more questions. We're going to go through them, but I'm glad that we finally got confirmation. Personally, I'm a big fan of damage numbers. I enjoy playing Vampire Survivors because it makes my brain happy to see numbers pop up.
Yeah. But we're talking about Vampire Survivors. It's like you focus on the damage numbers because the actual action is like
You just stand there.
minimal.
You just stand there. Things happen. So I'm guessing that you also, when you were playing either Elden Ring or Dark Souls, you kind of went, this dodge roll, that's pretty nifty. Is that how dodge rolling is gonna go?
It wasn't just that. I mean, it's not like that's the only game with dodge roll. Like the discussion for that honestly was, okay, we want to be an action game. Action games have dodge rolls. Like almost every good action game you can think of has a dodge roll. Why don't we? You know what I mean? Like we really should have this. And the same was true of active blocking as well, by the way.
Okay,
we were like,
I like active blocking, so I'm a big fan of Terror before it died. And there was a class there, the Lancer class, I believe, where you could block with his shield for like 3 seconds, but during the first second of block, it was way more effective, rewarding active play. Are you saying that there's going to be something like that?
There are absolutely things like that. So we've showed active block. What we haven't shown is more of the other stuff that will probably come in later on around this. So I can't announce any of that, but there will be more. And really, it just comes down to, okay, we want to be an action game. What do action games have? We really should look and seriously consider, like all of those things. I mean, so like another example with that, with the blocking as well, is that it's very, very common in any kind of action game, the games these days, to have some kind of indicator for an unblockable attack, like this kind of red flash type thing you get in games. Absolutely. Like it took a while to convince people that we should have something like that, but we have added it now. It's something that's in the game. So things like that, like more of those just action game mechanics are things that you need to do if you want to be taken seriously as an action game. So that's the
I
reason why
quite like indicators for unblockable attacks because, again, it's rewarding the player for paying attention to the game and then taking the correct action within the game, even if the indicator isn't necessarily a big red circle on the ground, but is the enemy model pulling back a massive hammer for a smash onto the ground, and you're thinking, yep, when he pulls the hammer back, roll out the way because I can't block that. So any kind of visual, audio, kind of flourish or cue that lets a player know, hey, you should consider not being here right now, I'm okay with that. That's quite cool.
It's kind of interesting though, because there was a weird one that came up recently where who was it? That's right, it was someone from Tencent actually, who was playing the game, and they fought against the second boss, the Devourer, and they said it was they died to it. And now, what I expect now that so we've got checkpoints in the game now. We didn't before, so when you die to the boss, you just respawn right in front of it. You just play it again very quickly.
Okay.
And the expectation when you die, for me, is that you try again, and maybe 2 more times, and then you beat it, right? Because your skills improve.
Yeah, because you learn what to do. It's repetition. It's very similar to Elden Ring again. The respawn point is almost right outside the boss because the challenge, the fun bit of the game, is the boss, not getting to the boss.
Right. But this person's expectation was, I die to the boss, so therefore I'm going to go grind some more monsters to get more powerful equipment, rather than just play the boss again until I get good at it.
Okay.
And this was actually an interesting moment for me, because I hadn't considered the fact that that could be a valid reaction that a player could have to that situation. And then their argument was, okay, like, are you a loot game or are you an action game? And I was kind of like, well, we're both. But they said, well, if you're a loot game, then you should be able to just go and grind some loot and then use that as a way to get past a boss rather than having to get good at action. And that was their view of that. And I don't know if I fully agree with this, because to me, I feel like you need to have some level of technical skill, you might call it, of dodging and doing this kind of stuff to be able to defeat a boss, like learning the mechanics a little bit and so on. But the question is, to what extent do we embrace that? And so the question is, for the second boss of the game, should a player be able to just go grind some monsters for a while?
If the player is able to do that and it's the second boss of the game, you're effectively teaching the player that they can trivialize all the mechanics of the game by simply having a bigger number than the game wants you to have.
Correct, which is a bit of a tricky one. So yeah, I'm actually not sure what entirely to do about that, because as I said, it's not an expectation that I realized someone would have that early in the game. Like there presumably will be points where if you could be undergeared to the point where it's very difficult to do a boss. On the other hand, someone like Mark can beat a boss with extremely bad gear because he understands all the mechanics flawlessly to the point where he can dodge practically everything, and it's just a question of how long it takes to do damage after that point. So there are things like that can happen, but yeah, I don't know, like it's kind of an interesting one. But I guess what I would say that I end up with there is that I do believe that some amount of technical skill, sort of action game skill, as it were, should be required to get through the game for the most part, and that is an important element to me. So that's where I am with that.
The chat's general reaction seems to be that we should balance the game around Mark. That's what it should be. It should be, if Mark is struggling, that's fine. If Mark is able to do it, that's probably the kind of difficulty it should be at. Personally, I'm very much of the opinion that that Tencent guy sounds like a skill issue, sounds like they should just get better at the game. But unfortunately, there is that kind of mindset of, I have struggled at this, therefore the problem must be with the numbers of my character, the gear, the stats, not in any way me. And it's difficult to kind of self-reflect on that. From a YouTube point of view, because mostly I just make YouTube videos, I can guarantee that somebody will watch Path of Exile 2 beaten on lowest possible gear, lowest possible numbers, lowest possible damage, lowest possible health. Very few people are going to watch Path of Exile beaten by being massively overpowered and just walking through all the bosses. I mean, that's...
Well, you say that, and yet, if you look at all of the top Twitch streams right now...
I mean, oh yeah, they're incredibly powerful. They're just Righteous Fire and standing there and doing all that cool stuff, which will happen. But it's always difficult. It's always interesting to see people beat a puzzle effectively giving themselves a stat-based handicap of saying, I'm going to do this with lowest possible numbers. But the idea of just going away, grinding, getting more powerful, and going back to the boss, I just like throwing myself against the boss again and again and again until I eventually win. But that, of course, is something you've got to consider when we do this. Let's go on to the next question. Sorry, Karen.
There was just one thing that I was wondering about when I was thinking about this, which was like, is there a difference in culture between China and the West with regard to
hugely,
this?
Massively.
I wonder if that can be one of the reasons why that was a different reaction there.
Well, as soon as you said that the Tencent guy failed to beat the boss, I just imagined him straight away taking a credit card out and being like, right, where's the better armor? Where's the better weapons? Where can I get health potions? Can I just skip this? Why can't I just pay to win? That kind of stuff. And then when you said, no, you've got to play the game, they were like, oh, right, okay, I don't get that.
Right. Anyway, you were saying.
Don't worry, it's okay. I'm sure they'll be okay with this. Everyone in the chat's like, oh, he went there. It's okay, don't worry, they'll be fine with this. Let's go on to the next question. We've spoken about casual versus hardcore design. Question 5, this is more for you to just speak about what you want to speak about. What have you wanted to talk about, but no one has yet asked the right question?
This is honestly one of the hardest questions you can ever get in an interview, because it's like you're giving someone zero things to latch any thoughts onto.
Yes.
So what I will do therefore is take that and run with it. Okay, right. So what I'm going to talk about is that exact phenomenon. Why do we have classes at all? This is one of these things where, like, when we originally designed Path of Exile 1, we actually wanted to have a classless system. I was actually very inspired by Dungeon Siege 1. That's another game that I cared a lot about. I played a lot of when I was younger. And that game actually didn't have classes. They just had skills that you got better at by using them again and again. And the problem that that you run into, in my opinion, with that kind of stuff is that you don't have any thought to latch your idea of how to design a character on. If you show someone a ranger, they're like, I immediately know what kind of thing I want to do with that. I've got ideas of how I might want to take that and so on. So like giving people stereotypes to latch onto is actually a super important thing in game design in general to be to inspire their creativity. You need to start from a point. So that's actually something that I think is super important, and something that, like, once again, the reason we have all these classes, even though our actual philosophy is around the ability to be free to choose whatever skill you want on, like, we actually, as a technical matter, do allow you to use or you can, the passive tree is all unified, so you can go all around it in different places. The skills can be used anywhere, and the items obviously just require requirements, but you can get those. Like, in general, we try to be very open. So really the classes are not actually doing very much at all at the beginning of the game. They just guide your initial starting choices slightly. So yeah, really the main purpose of a class is to be a stereotype. To give you something to think about as you design your character, and most people will just latch onto that stereotype and run with it, and that kind of means that they've got that way. So yeah, that's kind of the reason why we do that.
That's actually, because I come from a theatre background and then mostly into an acting background, there's a thing called Jungian archetypes. And it's very, very similar. The idea that you're almost shortcutting what the audience already know with characters that you make. So the Jungian archetypes would be the mentor character within a story is normally a wizened old man with a beard. That's why you look at Gandalf. That's why you look at Dumbledore. That's why you look at Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then you'd say that actually the plucky young hero has to reject the call to adventure. Then something bad happens in their own life. Then they get brought into it. That would be your Luke Skywalkers. That would be your Frodos. And then the evil guy is normally a big, powerful warlord clad in black armor. That's why you've got Sauron. That's why you've got Darth Vader. That's why you've got Voldemort. We're using Jungian archetypes when writing a story to effectively shortcut the audience's knowledge using their kind of preconceived expectations of who they expect to be good and who they expect to be bad to effectively tell a story in a very surface level way, and then you can get deeper into it. So when you're saying this class is this and this class is that, you're effectively saying to the audience, this person is going to fit this role within your adventure, build into that straight away. Someone in the chat gave a great point that classes were potentially a holdover from the early Dungeons and Dragons adventures or the early kind of tabletop adventures, where your class was able to do a certain thing within a party and was one part of a whole, and the whole was stronger because everyone was able to do the part specifically. There's actually, this is going to jump to a question later, but we may as well shortcut to it now. I think one of the holdovers from Dungeons & Dragons is the identifying items system. And that is because identifying items, or knowing what an item is before you put it on, is only really relevant if you can put on an unidentified item and it might be cursed. Because that way you're actually giving the player a benefit to identifying before putting it on. You're removing that risk of something negative happening. In Path of Exile 1, there is nothing negative that happens because you just can't put on the unidentified stuff. I see that as an almost superfluous system. It's a system that is, if you were to remove it, yes, you'd have to remove the identifying scrolls and rejig some of the economy, but it wouldn't necessarily change the gameplay a huge amount because people identify rare items based on the graphic of the item. They almost know what it is as soon as they get it. Are there other systems that you have seen and you have looked at and maybe you've reconsidered and said, you know what, this is actually just bogging the game down. We don't need this anymore. And what are those systems?
Well, I do feel like I need to defend identifying items for just a second.
Oh, go on then.
Because, okay, admittedly, the original reason for item identification would be the thing you said with the cursed items, I assume. But the reason in an action RPG that you have identifying items at this point really is just that you get to double dip the dopamine of, like, okay, something dropped. Oh, hang on a second, what's it going to be? And then you get another moment of what's it going to be, right? That really is that. It really comes down to that. And it would be very easy to say that, oh, you know, well, what's really the value of that? You know, you could just remove that and it'll be fine and items would still be good. But it is actually hard for me to necessarily say that they would be as good as they are now. Like, there is actually some little bit of value of that. And the other thing is that in, there's also in game design, the concept of the near miss. When you identify an item, you get the ability to have a near miss, which also, as it turns out, feels good to people. Like, I saw the mods, I realized that I could, like 2 of the mods were good, but I just needed that 3rd one. I was so close, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's like a thing that kind of adds to the joy of identification. Even though it may feel frustrating when you're actually doing it, it is like part of that feeling. And it's actually hard to make that happen at the point where the item drops from the monster. You're kind of too involved in the combat still at that point to really appreciate that particular issue. So that's like sort of like part of the thing. So effectively we get to split apart that, like, I'm an item thinking about item mode from the kind of like combat mode part. Now, one thing that I would say is that the identification scroll thing in PoE 1 is probably not that useful, which is why in PoE 2 we made it so that you can, there's an NPC in town who'll just ID all the items in your inventory. You just click that and it IDs everything. And then we're going to make ID scrolls much rarer because you don't really need very many of them anymore. Like, you just use them to ID something that you really care about on the field. So that's kind of where we went with that. So there is some elements of that. But the other thing as well is that we would have, I will mention, if we did have everything dropping ID'd, which would be that we would actually be completely removing the ability to have that experience of identifying and finding something, because item filters would allow you to just only be highlighting the items that exactly fit the description that you were looking for, which means that you would actually then at that point just have like everything that drops is good and everything that doesn't drop is bad, and you're just collecting, like you're just clicking on like there's no like moment of like is this good or is this bad. It's just like anything that's on the ground you just pick it up. I don't know that I love that either. Like there's certainly certainly I'm not going to say that item filters are bad, because I was literally the person who proposed and implemented them in the first place. But the thing that though is that I do think you want some room for the ability to like have pick up a rare and then ID it, and then it might be good or it might be bad. And that's still an experience I want to deliver. And so in PoE 2, we're improving the ability for that to happen. Like in PoE 1, the average rare on the ground is just garbage, and there's no point in even identifying it by the time you get to endgame. That's something that I want to fix, because I still like that experience of identifying an item and it might be good and it might be bad. So yeah, that's my defense of identification for you there.
That was great. No, and everyone's really happy that there'll be a character in town that's able to identify the items for you. Right. Fantastic. People are loving that. We're kind of asking these questions to delve in and maybe get little tidbits of information that you haven't told other people. That's my plan, and I'm going to be very overt about that. I'm trying to get you to admit to things that maybe you haven't told anyone else. We'll try and trick you up. That's the honest, genuine plan. So if you have a question in chat that you would like to ask Jonathan, the game director of Path of Exile 2, if you think we can be a little bit sneaky with it and find a way to ask him questions that's going to make him reveal information about the game, let's just do that. That's exactly what we're going to do. So we've talked about things that you've wanted to talk about. Let's move on to the next question. Question 6. This is quite a broad one. I think we've touched on this earlier, but what is your favorite video game from a mechanical standpoint, and why?
So, as I say, if I look at things like, okay, what are the games that I traditionally like? If you like, my first reaction, the emotional reaction, as it were, to that question is definitely the games that I played when I was a kid. You know, things like Half-Life and StarCraft and things like that, and they were just, and Final Fantasy. Those things were just great. But if I look at things recently, I think this goes back to what I was saying earlier about honing your sense for just what, like for jank. I find myself more drawn today to the experiences that are just extremely polished and don't have any of that going on. And two games that I really loved recently, sorry to do the whole chicken out thing and pick multiple games, but two games that I really enjoyed. One of them was the God of War, not the most recent one, but the one before that, the reboot of God of War when they first added the axe.
Oh, like Dad of Boy, that one.
Yeah, Dad of War. Yeah. That game to me was tight. And I didn't run into any jank at all. I kind of had a very, very good experience all the way through it. It had very few characters, which I thought was like, there's that sort of old saying about like things being perfect when there's nothing left to remove, like that kind of stuff. Like it's just like the reduction in characters. It was still a long game, but like they did a lot with little. And that game was really excellent. I am a big fan of that particular title. The next one they made, I think, was very good, but I wouldn't put it quite at the same level as the first one of those two. And another one that I really love for similar reasons is Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Both of those games, once again, very tight, no jank. Scary that the next game they're making is in our genre.
The chat is very much agreeing with you on this one. The God of War got some pushback, don't get me wrong.
Yes,
but
I know. Not everyone
everyone's back on your side.
Yeah, not everyone loved that game because I think that there were things that I think were weak as far as things like how the item system was and so on. It was weak, but also it wasn't bad. And as I said, I think that that's a thing that I care a lot about. Like there wasn't anything bad that happened. So and then as I said, the actual gameplay itself was very tight. But yes, Ori, that game, very, very tight. Like there might have been bugs in that game. I certainly didn't encounter any. There might have been jank in that game. I certainly didn't find any. Like the feel of moving around and all that stuff, very, very excellent. Like, I would honestly strive to have the feeling of movement and gameplay to be as good as a game like that. So I'm very keen to try out No Rest for the Wicked and see what they've got going on with that. Because that's very interesting to me. Because yeah, as I said, the previous two games they've made have been just very polished. And I actually don't think you see that many AAA games in recent times of that don't have jank in them. It's actually relatively rare these days, and that's kind of concerning. I can only hope to live up to that level of quality for PoE 2. I'm certainly hoping that we're able to get to that point, because yeah, I really hate that stuff whenever you get any sort of jank, and yeah, it feels like it's getting rarer.
Games we've gone from AAA, we've had quadruple A. I think CD Projekt Red have now announced a quadruple A. So right. Path of Exile 2 first 6A game coming out. Can we confirm that, Jonathan? Sure, why not? Yes, brilliant.
We'll do as many A's as you feel like. But at the end of the day, I just don't want any jank. That's what I want. Certainly, we have more content in PoE 2 than most games. Like we're like brutally overscoped. I mean, it's actually absurd how many monsters got made. While it's actually crazy. Like I've told people numbers of like, you know, how many monsters and bosses and stuff there are, but it's just like it's actually ridiculous. Like
you've got to give us numbers now, Jonathan. I mean, you're making the first sextuple A game. We need to know how many monsters are going to be in this game.
Yeah. So it's actually scary the degree to which, like, when I actually look at how long this game is in development, like, how long was Duke Nukem Forever in development for? Actually,
that was about 15, 20 years or something like that. Like a really ridiculous. Okay. I think when they announced it and then when they finally released it, there was a ridiculous 17 years. Someone I think is saying an absolute ridiculous amount of time.
All right, so we're not quite there yet, but I'm pretty sure the beginnings of what we started was in 2017. We're in 2024 now.
To be fair, 2020 lasted about 5 years. It was very strange. That whole kind of era was at least 10 years long, despite only lasting 2 years.
Because yeah, it's been going on, and like the amount of content that has gotten made in that time is just absolutely ridiculous. And it's even to the point, like, you know, there's funny things like, okay, so the league, crap, I'm terrible with names even for the leagues we just released. The Forest one, what the hell was it called again?
Just describe Wildwood. It. Everyone, someone in chat will tell me what happened.
Yeah, the Wildwood one.
Affliction.
Yes, Affliction. Anyway, the funny thing about that is that the assets used in Affliction are actually assets that were made for PoE 2 6 years ago, and then became too old to be in PoE 2 anymore. And then we remade them, and then we used the ones we made for PoE 2 and PoE 1. That is like a kind of concerning.
So Path of Exile 1 was made. You guys wanted to redo a lot of it, so you redid loads of it. Then you realized that you weren't able to integrate this with Path of Exile 1, so it effectively became Path of Exile 2. And now you're taking the stuff that was originally made for Path of Exile 2 and going, well, this is no good anymore. Just throw it over the Path of Exile 1. We'll use it there. Fantastic.
It sounds worse when you say it that way.
It does sound a lot worse than I say it that way. That's why I said it that way. But we all love you, and we all genuinely do want to support this game and see how it's going on. Quick question in the chat. WASD movement. That's confirmed, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Right, so your favorite video game. You mentioned God of War about the fact that it managed to remove a lot of superfluous systems. Let's just pull on that thread. What systems have you removed from Path of Exile 2, either bringing them over from 1, or you spent time developing them and then had a bit of self-reflection and said, you know what, this doesn't need to be here? Because God of War, the reboot, was so good because it removed all the superfluous stuff.
Yep.
Give us an example of when you've done that.
It's very hard to exactly come up with something that is a nice, tight package to say that for, because it's kind of, it really is like an evolution that continues along a lot of ways. But I mean, so there's a lot of stuff we haven't brought over yet, and that doesn't really count yet, I guess, because it doesn't quite meet the definition of removing again like that. But thing.
I am asking the hard questions here. I know that.
It is hard because what it really is that when we're redesigning individual things, like we only make again the stuff that makes sense, if you know what I mean. So it doesn't really feel like removal when you're doing it. There's a lot of complexity that we've tried to remove from the base systems. But like it's the reason, part of the reason why I struggle to come up with examples there is because they would feel so arcane that I don't know that that even be appreciable. Like the way leech works, for example, where it's like the way that leech works is some ungodly inhuman formula that not anyone on Earth understands in PoE 1. And in PoE 2, the way that it works is just the percentage that you see on the, like you just get a percentage on your item, and it works like how D2 worked, except for that monsters have leech resist that scales up through the game, which means that it still kind of works. It doesn't quite do exactly what it says on the tin, but it is just way simpler, right? Like it says 5% of damage. At level 1, it will be 5% of damage, and then as you go through the game, monsters get resistance to that leech, which means that it, you know, like the leech scales down.
So they'll still do effectively the same damage to them, but the percentage of that damage that you leech will be reduced by a certain amount based on that monster's resistance.
So that's an example of just like, it's a simplification, but it doesn't really feel like a removal in the same way. We just did some stuff. But then when I look at what it was that was there, it feels like a big deal to us because it's like, you know, there was just some horrible thing that was like had 20 freaking hacks piled on top of each other in order to achieve various results that mattered at various points.
I'm sure Mark understands it. Mark knows how leech works completely.
Yeah, no, he does. He does. I don't think
Mark understands it. If ever we're unsure of something, we'll just go to Mark. Anyone in the chat that's just joining us, Mark is apparently some kind of deity. We refer to him as what, Mark 1, as he was the first Mark that was working in the company, and he understands literally every single system.
Well, he's the one who answers all of the questions on Reddit about how
Fantastic.
specific skills work. So,
I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I wouldn't wish being on Reddit or interacting with that with anyone. So Mark is definitely doing us an absolute solid by sorting that out.
Right.
Thank you to Mark. Let's go on to question 7. It's just kind of actually, this very much links back to what we were just saying. Is there anything major that has changed from the inception of the idea for Path of Exile 2 to now? Was there anything that the whole team, whether it was yourself or the rest of the team, you were super on board with the idea or you were super against it, and then over the years you've actually said, you know what, we either should or shouldn't do this?
So in some ways nothing has changed because the overall design goal is the same, which on a high level is just make a perfect action RPG. And I guess then the definition of that shifts over time slightly, which changes things. But ultimately, the design goal was, you know, like we want to have everything that was good from PoE 1 and nothing that was bad, and have the combat be great. So that is still the same. But I guess it's in the specific details it's sort of harder to even appreciate because there's this phenomenon you get where like the moment that we try something and it's good, then that was always what I wanted to do. But if it's the other, if I try something and then it feels bad, then I'm like, well, that just wasn't good ever. So we should try that. We should do something else. And so it's very hard when your mind thinks that way to be able to even identify